at your local Toyota dealership. So both sides aren't back on the ground as yet. Sydney are out there. John Longmire, no doubt thinking long term beyond this game. His team a real show now for the premiership. Not so much of what we've seen today, but what we've seen over the season, and they've lost a few close ones too, which has held them back. And clearly in the rooms with the Fremantle Dockers, Ross Lyon is having a bit to say.
But I guess, Lee, in the past fortnight at least, they were terrific against Hawthorn, albeit in defeat, and then last week perhaps a little bit below their best against the Blues, so trying to find that happy medium in the next 2 months.
Well, as Dennis mentioned, winning the close games, Hawthorn have had five close games, won them all, which is the reason they're top of the ladder. They're 2-4. Sydney, they're 4 close games they've lost, a couple they have actually won, so that's the difference in the win or two that could put them on the top.
Nat Pfeiffer standing by with Peter Bell.
Yes, thanks, Ten. Nat, improved effort from the boys in the second quarter. What are you expecting in the second half?
Yeah, it's a little better. The conditions out here are really swirly, so it's tough to see whether one end's being favoured. Our guys have really got to hit in. Their midfield is elite, big bodies. We've got to absorb them in the pressure early and try and go back at them.
They are the gold standard, Sydney. Just their ability to contested wins, and also the way their ball handling is so clean.
Yeah, they have been clean. I think we've had a lot more uncontested marks, building the ball a lot better, but in the conditions, they're getting it in and scoring. A few of their power forwards kicking goals.
What is your role with the injury on match day from a coaching perspective? We've seen you doing a bit of work.
Yeah, I'm very much in a listen and learn role up in the box, but when I come down at half-time, I try and get around to the mids and the guys that I have impact on and just try and get behind them and let them know I'm in their corner still.
And have to ask you about the rehabilitation from the leg injury. How's that going?
Going really well. I ran yesterday and I've got surgery this week to get these plates out of my leg and look to build for next year.
We all hope you've got another 10 years minimum left playing football, but this little bit of coaching, has that whetted the appetite a little bit for after your playing days?
Not in any way at all. I'm pretty keen to be back out in the grass, to be honest.
Good luck in the second half. Thanks, mate.
Nat Fyfe, and you can understand how much the Fremantle Dockers have missed him when you look at the numbers. Brownlow votes in the last 5 home and away matches between these two clubs. He's polled in each of those games 11 out of a possible 15 votes.
You know, he's a gigantic absence, and of course Big Sandilands, who's the dominant sort of tap ruckman, is missing as well, but they're doing okay in that part of the game. They're just slightly ahead in the clearances. Mundy's doing a good job in close. Hill's taken a few, and he's more on the outside of the contest. Neil's got a few, so that part of the game has been really solid for them today.
Second half at the main stadium. Swans with a lead of 29 points. Kennedy, his 26th possession, goes down towards half forward. Up comes Richards, that's Xavier Richards, bumped off the line of the footy and it runs out of bounds. As I said a little bit earlier, 48 is the greatest number of possessions in any one game this season.
1 metre, guys, 1 metre.
Patrick Dangerfield and Tom Rockcliffe have that distinction. Naismith's in front here. Clark from behind did well, got it down to Neil, across to Pearce. High ball, almost the mark to Aaliyah. Thinking quickly, Crozier kicks it down towards half forward. Gathered by Yaron. Yaron tries to pull it back towards the middle. Dangerous ball. Grundy will deal with it. And deal with it he does. Rampy. Now Mills. And they work it out methodically. Back to Mills. Got it from Cunningham and Richards.
Like clockwork, the Sydney Swans defence. Richards off a step. A bit of separation, but Hanbury over the top. Franklin. Silvani did well enough. And Buddy forced to retreat. Hanbury. It'll pitch just in front of Heaney. Brilliant gather. Back to Lance Franklin. 48 out. Hand pass to Mitchell. Over the top is Hewitt. Hard up against the boundary. And he tried to channel his best Peter Dacos without success.
I'm sure Silvani thought, oh no, I'm going to have to chase Franklin 40 metres from about the 70 metres out, but he actually had the momentum, so Buddy decided to try and come back inside. Didn't quite get through.
Esper. Neil. Not much gain with that, other than you think you know where Fremantle are going now. Neil.
They've tried to chip it around their back half, haven't they? But they haven't been able to. They've been able to do that, maintain possession really well. They've had a lot more kicks, but can't get the ball quickly into their scoring area.
Aaliyah does brilliantly. It's a good mark, juggled. A lot to like about this young man. Forward of the wing. Spent time the East Fremantle Colts did Aaliyah after spending time in Queensland before that. This is Heaney. Just lobbing it high, close to the boundary line. Coming across, Naismith.
It's a nice mark, isn't it? Genuine pack mark. You mentioned a couple of times. He might have taken only one or two, but one or two is really strong in the right spots.
And I reckon Lockie Neal's rib cage is going to be pretty sore if you watch the replay there. Big Naismith coming through and collecting the man, dropping into the hole.
Sam Naismith. As I said earlier, saw him make his debut just about a month ago against the Cats. And he's gone from strength to strength in the space of a month. And this one has the goal umpire moving, but it's a goal. Well done. His first career goal. Last time I saw him, there was more hair to ruffle. Had the long hair, played with the socks up and wore a glove. Commentators delight. It's so tall.
Yes, it's a new look. Sydney ruck GI with Naismith and Nankervis called in this week with Callum Sinclair sideline.
Impressive goal from North Shore in New South Wales. Rookie draft in 2013, and again looks like a player who's got a lot of upside, as most of the big guys do. They're 24, 25 before they're really ready.
Any naysayers about Naismith being silenced, and he wins the ball out of the middle. Kick not intercepted by Spur. Heaney confronts him face on face. Just the Sydney Swans mix of youth and experience has them inside the top four, and potentially another successful September campaign / October. Naismith, not sure about that disposal. Lloyd off the outside of his boot to the hot spot. Spur try to smother the ball. Mitchell digs it out, comes across to Richards, and maybe he becomes an X factor. Well, it's starting to fall apart pretty quickly for the Dockers in this third quarter.
Yes, with the 29-point margin at half-time, so all of a sudden, bang, bang. Sydney now clear out to the 42-point margin, so long way back now for the Dockers.
Xavier Richards made his debut 3 years ago, first time in his career. Last week and this week he's played back-to-back games. Down goes Neal. Kept control of Lockie Neal to a good extent this afternoon. Outer ring at the circles. Clark, Mundy, Neal, Hill, Walters under pressure, affects the kick. Lear over the top, couldn't mark it. Mills tidies up, comes to Cunningham. They're trying to consolidate a spot in this team. Not so this man, Kennedy. Across the ground, McVeigh, meters in the clear. Just kicks down towards Heaney on the bounce. Brilliant stuff by Heaney. Wonderful gather and the presence of mind to give it off. Buddy's in trouble. That's holding it, surely. Every time he goes near the footy, players around him from the opposition do have the appetite to go in after him.
Draws the crowd, doesn't he, Dennis? Every time he's got the ball, there's a couple of Fremantle Dockers players on his tail.
That has been to Sydney's advantage on a couple of occasions, as we've seen today.
I think so, because, I mean, that's one of the things they would have said at half-time. We've got to be careful to lower the eyes, make sure, don't just go to Franklin, make sure that if it went out, fine. But if he's outnumbered, go to the spare player.
John Longmire looking a little more content. Brilliant hand. Kennedy can't get enough bend on this. And it just pitches before going out. Not the worst result for the Swans.
Their clearance work in this third quarter has been excellent. Sydney, Kennedy, Parker, not the start Fremantle wanted in the third quarter.
Alex Silvani with the job on Lance Franklin. Ibbotson is the third man up towards the boundary. Kennedy No room to move here. Walters dropped what he may have taken. Spinning out of trouble was Dawson. Rampy has had the measure of Pavlich this afternoon. That trend continues. Grundy stabs it to Lloyd. Wants to keep going. He's got men either side, but he's held up momentarily. And hence, he now has to search for a longer option to the hot spot. And Ibbotson, in his prime, intercept mark specialist, and that's a case in point.
Where the big forwards have to just force themselves to the ball in the air and make sure the intercept mark's not possible. A lot of players back, so you had to really go long. So if you're going to go long, go deep.
Franklin, nobody near him, turns around from long range. And he misses. Anticlimactic.
The player, Dan, the player I'd like to talk about just for a moment, Callum Mills, it's like he's been playing half-back for 10 years, such as his composure and poise.
They love him, Sydney, don't they? High ball outside the defensive 50, and Clark, it was a touch ball. Clark took it cleanly enough. Walters, now Hill is running. He's been pretty quiet this afternoon. Not a bad kick, though, lobbing it over the top or trying to. There's Mills, played it very well. Back on Yaron. Pavlich, tackled, taken down. Still, though, the Dockers have got the run of it. Weller in trouble. Back to Crozier. He's about 35 metres out. Picked up by De Boer. Tries to go back to Weller. Over the football, Yaron. Mills could have been taken high there. No free kick. And we get a whistle.
It's all labour intensive for the Dockers, though, isn't it, going forward?
Oh, yeah.
Cross line. That look has been prevalent for most of 2016. So much frustration attached to this year on so many fronts. Jack across to Lloyd, and the counter attack is on here. Richards. Franklin is inside the centre circles. He's used now. Waiting for some options. Kennedy presents and sends Heaney on a foot race. Spur. Heaney, it sits well for him. Has Towers in support outside of the boot. And the Swans continue to surge.
Did a good job then, the Swans. They had the numbers back, Fremantle, but when Franklin went forward into the centre square, it just broke up the play. And Heaney was the one, and Towers were the ones who were able to follow the ball in deep. But that's when the Swans recognised going short into the front half of the centre square, opens up the forward 50. It's just a foot race over the top, and they had the players back initially, the Dockers, but eventually the two Swans players flooded forward quicker.
Knocked down by Collins. Neal gives it to Mundy. Sends it inside the forward 50. Pavlich doing some hand-to-hand combat there, but fell over. And Rampy took a good mark. Chips it out to Cunningham, who wants to run. Short. McVeigh. McVeigh at left half back. Sunshine now here in Perth. McVeigh. Altitude on this one, as a result, won't be easy. A clean ball as far as Sydney are concerned. Sutcliffe tackled by Rowan. A clever hand pass by Neal. Gave it to Spur. Cross it came from Tucker. Mundy kicks it down towards half forward. Juggled by Taberner. Pavlich is dashing back. Rampy trying to block his path. Sends it in that direction. Pavlich is in front at least initially. But Grundy, terrific work. Came back, took the mark in front. And Pav just having a word about a player bringing Grundy to that situation.
Yeah, the subtle blocks happens all the time. It's very hard for the umpires to see them if they're just that little hold your position.
Sorry, late. Outside of the boot. Collins bounces it to Weller. Weller to Neal. Back to Weller. Neal is getting busy now. This is Tucker on the outer side. Down towards half forward. In the back to Cunningham against Yaron.
He's been good too, Cunningham, playing as part of that back six. They've all been good back there. Mills, Rampy.
Mills, a 19-year-old. And the Swans spread. Papley. Hasn't Lance Franklin worked up and down the ground this afternoon? Kick just overshoots Silvani, intended for Jack, finds his man. And some prime movers getting involved into the hands of Kennedy.
Nice use, isn't it? Just knowing what what position to go to, and then to execute the skill to find the teammate. They did it really well off from that. About 5 consecutive kicks from half-back to set shot, 25 metres out.
Coming off 35 disposals against Carlton. Reigning club champion, 4th in last year's Brownlow. We've spoken so highly of Josh Kennedy as a midfielder, and he begins to hurt Fremantle with a couple of goals this afternoon.
This is the interesting time too, when we spoke about percentage about 10 minutes ago, Dennis. Well, okay, you've now got the 8-goal, 55-point lead. But even then, as soon as you start thinking about percentage, you're sort of thinking about the end of the journey rather than what do we do to start the journey. So it's always an interesting mindset that it takes care of itself, percentage, if you do all the building blocks right.
First time in a Sydney jumper that Josh Kennedy, not the Josh Kennedy that plays for the West Coast Eagles, but this Josh Kennedy has kicked multiple goals on this ground. Behind the pack, it's Mundy, comes away, goes towards half forward. Main with a bit of separation, could have almost got a free kick. Umpire thought about the decision. It's against Aaliyah, so Main looks down towards the pocket. And this ball bounces very close to the line. Aaliyah got it from Grundy. Comes back to Mills under pressure. Kicks it outside the 50. Bounces obligingly for Pearce. Feeds it to Main. Hand passes to Hill. Hill kicks it directly to Hanbury. And I'm musing earlier about percentage. Well, coaches can't go on about that. It's just mentioned in oblique terms like don't stop, keep pushing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a term you never want to use as a coach. Now we need percentage.
That's right.
It's a bad term. Bad term.
Well, even the dumb guys know, well, we're in front.
Keep concentrating, keep the game playing going. Don't take advantage of it because you're well in front, all those things.
You've done it before. I didn't. Neil gives a head pass across towards Langdon, spell it off the boot of Pearce, and it goes out of bounds.
Having said that, you ask any coach, they don't look at the ladder, they don't look beyond next week.
No, you do. You might take a glance of it every now and again, but really it's not part of your week-to-week schedule at all, or your week-to-week thinking.
Swans have this game well in hand, out by 55. Naismith goes to ground. So too Weller. Parker over the football. Mundy. Pearce couldn't control it. Kennedy, as always. Heaney. And Nankervis wrestled to the ground by a couple of Dockers.
I think the Rockcliffe-Dangerfield record of 48 this season could be in a bit of strife today. I don't want to put the kiss of death on Josh Kennedy. 33.
Scoring a lot of the footy.
He's opposed to Mundy at the present time, who wins it from the stoppage. And Hanbury ensures the skipper has no room to move. 5 losses in a row coming up for the Dockers. And Sydney, we know about their top 4 aspirations. This, plus that percentage we've been talking about, so valuable at the business end of the season. Naismith been manhandled by Clark. No whistle. Neal releases Mundy. Smith. Parker and Aaliyah. They can work the middle now. And Lloyd drives it long. Dawson backed himself, couldn't completely control it. Papley off to Mitchell. Time to assess. And the Swans put another dagger through Fremantle's heart.
Son of a gun.
Talk about where he'll end up in 2017, but he's playing in this side at the moment. Lee, he's going to be, you'd think, if he wins that contract, very valuable for the Swans.
Oh, yeah, no, he's a valuable player, still early in his career. You need about 12 of them in there, and he's one of them. He's a good player, Mitchell. I mean, they're line breakers, I guess, at the Swans. They haven't got too many of those, but gee, they've got a lot of real hard workers, good all-rounders, can get the ball and carry it as well.
Naismith did well in there. Hanbury, the beneficiary, wide. Now McVeigh in trouble. Had it a while. It'll be a free kick to Tucker. Plays on, running from behind is Sheridan. Gets himself into a tight situation. Weller, De Boer wider. Running hard again. Sheridan backed it up. Kicks inside the forward 50. Going back is Yaron. It's touched over the top, I fancy, by Boyd, or rather Lloyd.
I believe it's a touch behind. Just going to check it was a touch by the Sydney defender.
Score review. Umpire's call is touch, one behind. Can you please confirm?
It's a bit quick, I think.
Underway.
Just wait until I give you a opinion.
Bit of a problem, though. I mean, it's what we're doing now, but
Confirmed touch.
it does mean in a tight game the defending side is certainly hampered because everybody should be closed up by now. Lloyd, not necessarily the case in this game, though. Grundy chips it to Heaney. Heaney has it hard against the boundary line. Just a little chip pass looking for, but not finding Rowan. Staying on his feet. Towers kept it alive. Well done. Close to the boundary line. Cruising past was Rowan. Knocking it out of bounds is Ibbotson. And just going back to percentage, talking about it, GWS big winners yesterday and held Richmond to 23 points. They started the day on 142. Geelong can't improve theirs today, of course. 133 they played on Friday. Sydney started the day on 134. Here's Aaliyah. Adelaide play later today. The percentage is 128. Jack, clever little kick. Towers. Hanbury. Bit of a fumble from Neil. Don't see that too often. Sheridan, Weller. Back it comes to Langdon.
Here's Tucker. That defensive 50, a sidestep on to his preferred left. Lloyd going back with the flight. Went to ground. Yaron through his legs. Lloyd is surrounded. And the whistle comes, but 5 goals from stoppages. The Sydney Swans, that's their specialty, and today it has been in use.
That's where raw data can be misleading. Fremantle haven't scored from their stoppages, even though the raw number is equal with that of Sydney, 24 each.
The live ladder shows the Swans up to 3rd position and their percentage being built in the process. McVeigh, Mitchell, 55 out, unguarded goal square. And the percentage takes another spike.
We're talking long term. It is all about Sydney just hammering home this advantage now. They've got Fremantle on their knees. And we know that Fremantle aren't a big scoring club. Just 3-3 so far. If you keep the opposition down and you can get around the 18-19 mark, you can do really well with percentage.
It's flowing it beautifully now. Sydney, the conditions have improved, so the ground's dried up. And when they're taking the ball forward, their ability to maintain possession, find the right target and execute the right option is just getting the scoreboard really ticking.
Naismith again directed it down to Jack. Hewitt came in, couldn't do much with it. Hill, Walters, haven't seen much of him. Kicks down towards half forward. Yaron juggles the mark about 40 metres out of that.
Geez, I reckon that'd be almost the first contest that Fremantle have won in that part of the ground. The aerial balls. A good player, Nick Smith. He got a little bit of height on him, Yaron. But that was a good mark. But mostly the Swans defenders have just been too good in the air in anything like a one-on-one contest there.
Made his debut last week, showed a couple of things, kicked a couple of goals, and he hasn't been Fremantle's worst forward today.
Nick Smith, an All-Australian 2 years ago. There's Yaron. And this one holds this line, through it goes. Well done. The margin still 10 goals.
Had some knee and calf problems this year, Shane Yaron, but albeit in the WAFL, a Naylor medalist. And goal front accuracy, albeit from limited opportunities. He brings up his 3rd career goal in just his 2nd game.
Yeah, nice strong mark. 27-year-old mature age recruit, only playing his 2nd game. But he's got a bit of smoothness in the way he moves. He looks like he's got some talent back there.
A glimmer on a dark day for the Dockers. Kennedy to Parker, and Mitchell getting busy again. Sends a high ball. Franklin, will he get to the contest? Nobody, crashes the pack. And Papley and Silvani Can't win the footy, it's off hands.
Plays an important role down there, Papley. He tends to be the little worker bee, the ground level chaser and tackler. He's not going to get a high stats, but that speedy little forward that pressures the opposition defence is really important.
At 5, interested onlooker, and Curvis camped in front. And Jack immediately shut down by Spur. Big quarter for the Swans. Essentially doubled their lead, out by 60 points. And perhaps more to come in the remaining 6 minutes of this quarter. Hanbury flips it out the back. Walters can't control it. And Kennedy, along with Dan Curvis in the end. Like a bull. Josh Kennedy, he's up to 34 disposals. Mundy's third man up. Kennedy searching for it. So too Hill. Langdon on his left. Aaliyah kept his feet, importantly. And then he has a little slip. Off balance. Mark dropped by Spur. Franklin works it out to Mitchell. On his left. Oh, what a quarter he's having. Amazing. Sometimes, Lee, you just have 15 or 20-minute spells where it all falls into place.
It has, yeah. The 3 goals in all this quarter. He's not a noted goal kicker as a midfielder, but he's actually, instead of being in tight, which is often the way he plays, he's been really on the outer ring of the stoppage congested area, and he's received a few handballs and been able to go on and kick some goals as the Swans have blown the game open. We've played it all day. There's the quick hands, they're pressured handballs that go to the right option, still maintain possession even though there's a lot of pressure.
Clever kick too by Mitchell. Had to give it some elevation quickly. Because of that, pulled back a little further, knowing the breeze would catch it. His kick inside the forward 50, well, almost right on the line. Towers trying to barge his way through. Heaney, a good strong tackle. Gets Spur down and we'll get a ball up. So in the first term, Sydney kicked 3-7 going to the City end. In this term, it's 7-2. And they're looking really dangerous. Clark, a backhander, standing off the pack with Spur, wrenching it away, his teammate, Mundy. Mundy comes again after Langdon's kick was smothered. Coughing it up was Walters, not having a good day. Parker, down goes Mitchell. First blemish, he says he punched it. Umpire only 10 metres away, one of the best, umpire Ryan.
And the Dockers take the advantage. Taberner. It's been starvation corner for some of these Dockers this afternoon, including the milestone man himself, Matthew Pavlich, finally wins the footy. Yaron growing in confidence. One of the more fluent build-ups for the Dockers so far this afternoon. Yaron doesn't hit it well. Almost marked by Tucker. Rampy slung in the tackle. And Langdon couldn't release it. And from this situation, the Swans are always difficult to get past. Just over 4.5 minutes remaining before three-quarter time. Sunday afternoon football coming to you from Domain Stadium. Mundy, touch ball, the top of the square. Walters around his body instinctively, but hit the wrong part of the football.
Might get Lee Matthews to give an assessment of Sydney's run home. Port, St Kilda away, then North, and then Richmond. Lee, what do you think?
Well, a chance every time they play, but I mean, you should. Here we are looking at it. There is who's at home. A game in Hobart will be difficult, but they'd be favourite in all those games. Maybe round 22 is a 50-50 bet going in.
And Curvis across half back, kicks beyond the wing, nicely done by Richards, just floating and taking this mark, looking it down towards half forward now, under the chest of Rowan, spotted it quickly with Richards. Rowan, just a step in his approach. Franklin couldn't take the mark, runs free at the back. Now Zach has got a problem.
He was hoping and praying it would go out.
Done a good enough job in those one-on-one contests. Silvani, I mean, he just was able to just force Franklin under the footy without giving away a tunnelling free kick. He's been pretty good one-on-one in the air.
You wonder what an old coach would think if he got into the time machine, Marty McFly's time machine, came back and saw a defender standing over the ball, hoping, like a lawn bowler, hoping it goes out. There's Crozier, slips over. Clark, wow, lack of awareness there, run down by McVeigh.
Well, not called that way. Clark gets a free kick.
That's an interesting call.
Not sure about that one, guys.
Well, we're all completely stunned by that call. Yaron caught behind, did enough to spoil, and Naismith back onto the ground, can't control it.
I've got to say, quite often when a player runs from behind, he pushes in the back and the umpire just plays holding the ball. But no, that's not one of them. That's not. It was in the back at the.
I don't think John Romo was too impressed with the call.
It was unlucky, that one. Should have been holding the ball, I would have thought.
Nice work by Naismith, McVeigh, and in a tight situation, the Swans in the footy. Hanbury and Mitchell, the chemistry there just off the pace. 3 minutes to go before three-quarter time. No surprise, the Swans dominating contested possession this afternoon. Naismith, taken by Mundy, a tumbler. Smith in best position. Hand pass was knocked down. Yaron gets involved. Now Jack. A little fortunate not to be whistled. Parker stole it. Kennedy. And they start rolling again. Towers to a one-on-one. Silvani on the sprawl. He left Franklin and he had to take that mark.
Well, that's what the good defender has to do. He hasn't been playing much, Silvani, but he read the ball. He just didn't worry too much about Franklin. If you can get to the ball first, well, clearly your opponent's not going to get it.
Ball to the wing off hands.
A lot of defenders tend to worry too much about the body positioning of their opponent. When the ball's in the air, then that's the time to back your judgment.
Sydney by 66 points. Top four position is what they're chasing, and maybe beyond that is McVeigh. Hill and now Neal around his body. De Boer acrobatically ends up with Mills. And Lloyd taken down by Weller. De Boer gives it out to Tucker. A little fumble, that was costly. Parker also runs into trouble. Umpire letting them play. Kennedy, McVeigh and Mundy. De Boer intercepted by Rampy. An afternoon he's having. Cunningham. And it wasn't clean out the back. The Swans with ample time. Smith and Grundy just ambling his way to defensive 50. Thought about pulling it back towards the middle. Well weighted for Rowan. And he's one of those players for Sydney going forward. So much versatility. And the leg speed, which can create havoc for the defence. Heaney from behind. Almost. At ground level, Sutcliffe wins it. Lands at the feet of Ibbotson. In turn to Neal. Untidy. Gathered by Collins. And the sting's gone out of this one for the time being. Pearce. Halving the contest was Heaney. If he can gather and give, it's an opportunity for Rowan to straighten up from 45 out. It is a clinic.
Doesn't tend to get a lot of the ball. Rowan, when he can, he's got enormous speed, so he can take off, put the afterburners. When he accelerates, he's not going to get run down from behind. Just gives you great confidence to be able to do that and kick the long. He doesn't get a lot of the footy, but it's a really dangerous, almost that fourth in between forward. Not quite a key position player, not quite a crummer. Going to be a big win, isn't it, for the Swans? And their ruckman have been okay, but I still think if they can get Tippett back fit and well, that is something that could elevate them to the very top if he can get over that injury and be ready for September at his best.
He's having a good season, wasn't he? Mundy kicks it out wide, and this one runs out of bounds.
Lee, do you see Sydney as the team most likely to contend with Hawthorn?
I've always thought probably they're the proven ones. I mean, the Giants are just unproven. They look fantastic, but they haven't proved it on the MCG in September yet. So my top three for a while have been Hawthorn, Swans and Geelong as the most likely to be able to do it in the last day.
Another possession for Kennedy, so he's up to 37 now. Pete's declared the record's in danger, and it is. He's 11 off the highest number of possessions in a game this season. As we said, Rockcliffe and Dangerfield.
9 in contested possession, 8 clearances amongst those numbers. So he goes and earns the footy, just doesn't get the outside one.
Naismith.
Done it again.
Yeah.
Clear it out.
And remember today they're probably with Callum Sinclair out. Naismith and Nankervis are virtually the 3rd and 4th ruckman, but Naismith has been strong in the air, taken 4 strong marks.
Siren sounds then. It's three-quarter time at the main stadium. And Sydney really kicking it up a cog there. 8 goals in that term. And they lead 59-99 to 4-3-27 as we await the final term on a Sunday afternoon.
Big margin for the Sydney Swans at three-quarter time, out by 72 points. And that third term, a 7-goal performance, their second best ever in a quarter in WA. Their midfielders getting involved. Josh Kennedy, superb with 37 disposals, and Tom Mitchell was instrumental as well. As we head downstairs to Peter Bell.
Yeah, not a whole lot to report from an injury perspective here for both sides, but one interesting part of the game has been Sydney's midfield getting involved on the scoreboard. Traditionally, they're not a high-scoring midfield. 7 on the board, though, from Mitchell. Also, Kennedy got involved. Luke Parker got involved as well. That's another element to their game this year. The other bit I like is a young fella, Heaney, going up into the midfield. He's just something a little bit different for Sydney, and we might see a bit more of that as they embark upon another finals campaign.
Well, the Docker skipper's going okay. David Mundy, you saw there 19 contested possessions, a dozen possessions in that third term, but the odds insurmountable.
It's interesting, Dennis. I think as much as you could say there's a opponent v opponent, Mundy is actually playing on Kennedy. They're not following each other around, but it is one of those where both players are just getting incredible numbers.
Yeah. Venture to say Kennedy's getting more help. Naismith, Hanbury. Here's Kennedy about to swoop and watch his progress. Cunningham kicks it down towards half forward. Silvani reaching. He's back after it. Then fumbles. Helped him actually. Stopped him, and as a result the traffic went past. Here's Mitchell, still a third term. Breaks away. Looping hand pass. Kennedy. They're mounting inside the forward 50. Is the mark taken by Richards? It was. I'd like him to get up and mark the spot with his boot. We could have X marking the spot, but he will not do that. He will not do that. But I'm lurking, Lee.
Well done. Yeah, no, he forced his way. He forced his way to the front, took a beautiful mark, but didn't play his part of the bargain to give it a.
No. Should have notified him.
Dennis. Send the message down via Bally.
Too late now. Kick is good though. Big second half by Sydney.
Adds an interesting dynamic, doesn't he, Lee? Xavier Richards?
Yeah, well, he's a little bit like Dean Towers in size and shape. Yeah, they're not going to be the. Well, in fact, I don't know about the big, strong key position player. I think what you want is mobile forwards mostly these days. You want all your forwards to be movers. And apart from the rest and ruckman down there, the Swans, all their taller type forwards, from Franklin down, very agile. Nice kicking action, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not much pressure on the Swans now. I mean, they're well in France, so they've been kicking plenty of goals. So the player with the ball is nice and relaxed.
Xavier Richards doubling his career tally in a day, and the Swans are on the move yet again. Man in question, 55 out, thumping kick, but it's well wide of the mark.
Yeah, the eyes lit up then, didn't it? He knew that he was going to be able to wheel onto the 50-metre line. There was no obvious forward target, so he had to have a go from long range, but just miskicked it a fraction.
And visions of grandeur, looking for back-to-back goals. Nankervis won't reach him. Mundy back fits it. Jack went to the voice of Mitchell. Dawson, Hill, Mundy, and now Yarran getting a piece of it. Under pressure though, the Dockers. Aaliyah wins it back, and Curvis's kick was smothered by Clark. Mundy breaks free across to Dawson. Poor handball. The ball there to help out, and the Dockers to the wing. Pavlich in front, ball knocked away. Grundy gathers, and Cunningham hands it across to Lloyd. The Swans can reload. Inside the 50, Naismith almost. Langdon's hand pass ends up with Sheridan. Now Neil across his body. Weller works his man off it, only to the advantage of Cunningham. He spots Franklin 70 metres from home. The Swans are building again, and options galore. The Dockers' defence being sliced and diced after half-time. Kennedy bobs up again.
That ball usage of the forward 50, it's something I think is the great strength. Hawthorn will do it better than anyone, just find the right target inside 50, and the Swans in this second half have just done it beautifully.
Far be it from us to hand out Brownlow votes before the umpires, but with 38 disposals and potentially 3 goals next to his name, Josh Kennedy has been the man of the moment this afternoon. Just fades across the face, and Clark takes the intercept mark.
Just there, no more.
Margin 78 points then. They made their move in the third term. They led by 29 at half-time. Here's Pavlich, strong mark. Hasn't been for lack of effort. He worked hard in the first half. Was probably as good a forward as they had, but that kick, disappointing.
Talk about the number of kilometres he's travelled, over 860,000 in his footy career. Can you imagine Dennis jumping on a plane that regular?
I reckon Dennis would have done about 10 times that amount, wouldn't you, over your commentating career, Dennis?
I wrote that question for Dorothy Dixer, as they say. Yes, but he was doing something sort of strenuous at the other end.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they haven't played better today, for a day that he will always remember. Still coming out with the children, the done thing now, and that will be with him forever. Digital, not like the old days with the VHS.
Don't like to be a party pooper, but I don't know whether you remember your 150th or your 250th. You might remember your 350th because it's late in your career. The big game will be the last one he plays. He will remember that. That'll be a sad day for him.
Well, you and he are sort of in that elevated space. A bit different for people like myself. I get excited with 50 minutes as the ball goes close to the boundary line and it's out of bounds.
Just outside the attacking 50 for Fremantle. As Matthew Pavlich got a couple of moments left in his 350th game. Clark fit it well to Neil. McVeigh got a hand in there. Langdon. And Spur was held a long time in the tackle. Advantage was taken. Not sure it proved to be just that. Sutcliffe over the top of Jack. A scramble inside the centre square. Fremantle win it back. Langdon to Neil. Is this Pavlich's moment? Rampy has been his master today, and so it proves again. Smith takes something off the kick, and Cunningham takes the short ball across to Jack as another shower arrives.
Been strangely quiet. Kieran Jack today hasn't been a big day for the Sydney co-captain.
Playing game number 203. Runs off the line, hugs the boundary line. Naismith could not take the mark, but in terms of a September audition, Lee, he's done plenty today.
Yeah, Naismith's been good. He's 24, which is about the time that the average big guy's ready to play ruck at AFL senior level, and he's certainly done his bit and looked dangerous in the air.
Nankervis beaten by Clark. Neil couldn't take it cleanly. Hill kicks it forward. Walters up. Falls to Tucker. Kicks inside the forward 50 on the bounce. Rampy. Just a bit too nimble for the Pav. Comes away. Not a particularly good kick though. Nankervis. Parker does well, taken high. Advantage is taken by Mitchell. And the hand pass will slide out of bounds. So that's a mistake. Won't cost them too much, but 105-27. Very good place for Sydney to be, but they're pressing on, as we said. Percentage is not something talked about, but something important this afternoon.
At margin 78, 15 minutes remaining in this one. Neither ruckman gets a clear hand on it. Hanbury delightfully outright McVeigh. Once this Sydney Swans midfield hits top gear, there's few teams that can shut them down. That ball for Kennedy wasn't perfectly designed, but there may be a 50-metre penalty with David Mundy encroaching.
A little bit unlucky that he went quickly. It looked like Mundy was trying to get out of the air. It's a really fine line decision for the umpire. was that player who's not on the mark. Is he trying to get out of that area, protected, to allow the player to move the ball on? Interesting call. So Mundy's ran from behind. I think he's a little unlucky. The thing is, he's running on the diagonal. You've got to run virtually straight out sideways.
And Josh Kennedy with no problem completing and scoring his third goal.
Just remember, was against Hawthorn a couple of weeks ago when there was a couple of, I think it was Hawthorn, was that the game? When there was a couple of encroachments inside that protected area. The protected area idea is that so players can play the ball on. That's the idea of clearing the area so they can play the ball on sideways or on the diagonal. Let's have a look at this again. He's marked the ball. He's in the area, Mundy, and he almost gets in the way because Kennedy wants to come inside. But that in a way is the purpose of the rule, to make sure that that player like Mundy gets out of the area where the player with the footy might want to play it on.
Barker. Heaney. Heard the voice, goes back to Smith. Smith sends it down towards half forward and Jack. Jack looping hand pass out wide. Irrepressible. Hanbury goes very wide. Papley slides, struck him on the body, stays in initially. No, just trickles across the line. So Josh Kennedy is up to 40 possessions now. Mundy a couple away from that. Papley has been busy. He made the point, worker B on the forward line. Certainly a willing worker, but things haven't gone his way. And then Curvis jabs it hurriedly. And scores are behind. Increases the lead. 112 to 27.
Well, the air's been sucked out of Fremantle, and they've been dominated from the opening bounce. Crozier assesses the options, and this ball is floating over despite the best efforts of Yarran.
We mentioned big Kurt Tippett. He'd be a welcome inclusion, and I guess Zach Jones is the other one who could force his way into this lineup.
The depth of Sydney is unquestionable, and to have the luxury of Kurt Tippett waiting in the wings as Clark launches himself. Hewitt across to Hanbury, and just pulled it too far across his body. He rues that missed opportunity.
There's the point as Bally's making, is the next players in got a bit of experience. They're just not untried kids. So they've got a pretty strong 30-man squad to choose from.
Sheridan to himself, and then he drives it outside the defensive 50. Pavlich again had it punched away by Grundy that time. Towers to Heaney, runs to 50, long kick, beauty. So the margin now climbs above 90 points. 18-11 to 4-3. Impressive.
Bit of dominant second half, isn't it? That's 11 goals even to this point, and we're only halfway through the fourth quarter. But I guess even more so from that percentage we spoke about, 4 goals 3 only to keep the Dockers to a very low score as well. Beautiful strike, wasn't it? He knew he'd have to kick through the ball, control power, but he timed it beautifully and made the distance easily.
The Swans doing it on their terms at the moment. Hill, Pearce and De Boer. Clark helps out on his left side. Pearce's kick was errant, and no issue there for Lloyd.
It all came from the Naismith chase. He actually chased, put the pressure on, and that you don't always actually lay a tackle, putting the pressure on.
Josh Kennedy up to 41 disposals. Ball almost turned over. Collins is equaling his career high for Josh Kennedy, so you'd expect in the last 12 minutes that would be eclipsed. Clark did well. Hill sidestepping beyond the 50. Grundy going back fearlessly, and Smith across to Mills. Heaney pushes to the wing, and Towers presents. Heads inboard to Franklin. And Franklin was a good field kicker.
Yeah, beautiful kick, isn't it?
Heaney provides the run. Weller shuts it down. Clark laterally to Langdon. And the kick was affected with the push, but it worked out well. Pavlich sets Weller a task. Go off the deck. Walters hasn't had much joy this afternoon. Lloyd knocks it forward. Jack, near where Lloyd was. Oh, that's dangerous by Zach Dawson. He's taken him out high, and clumsy, I guess, is the best word to describe Zach Dawson's actions there.
Yeah, clumsy. In his defence, I think it was Lloyd fumbled the footy, but clearly it's going to be looked at more than once, that's for sure.
Report has been made. Front-on contact, no doubt, the charge. And Lee on inspection.
Oh, yes, no, he saw the contact coming, Dawson, and he tucked his shoulder or his head behind his shoulder, and therefore his shoulder went into Mills. I think it's Mills, isn't it?
No, Lloyd.
Lloyd, into Lloyd's head. So, no, that's the high bump. That's what we're trying to umpire out of the game. So, on the rare occasion a player does do that,
Nick, I'm going to give it to you, okay?
that's a suspension in the offing for sure.
Problem is it goes past the footies there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
behind him.
it is. Yeah. No, I mean, it's if one player sees the second. If both players have got their eye on the footy, then it's an accident. But Dawson sees Lloyd, protects himself, but in protecting himself, his shoulder hit Lloyd's head. So he has offended badly. Hopefully he's all right and he's walking off the field. So
he's walking from the ground, Lee, and he's a tough player. In fact, he hasn't missed a game since 2014. Lloyd, he's been a valued and consistent member of the team, and he's just jogging off now. Hopefully he's okay.
You updated on the condition of Lloyd. Franklin brushes the tackle of Clark. A sidestep. Corridor ball works out okay because McVeigh has the sure hands. Aaliyah peels off. And the Swans running all over Fremantle here. Wasn't a great kick, but Heaney gathers at the 50 instinctively. Goes all the way. What a kick.
What a talent.
Well, he practiced, didn't he, about 5 minutes ago, basically. Exactly the same scenario presented itself, turned inside, got to the 50-metre line, nothing better on. So he's lobbed two really long shots.
That was classic, that. So much chaos around him, eyes only for the footy, just drifting through.
We see the live leader there in Sydney's percentage now is creeping up towards the Giants. So it's been a good win, good 4 points, and a good percentage booster already for the Swans.
Another 9 points and they're in second place, but they didn't fall off the pace today, and that's important. GWS in very good terms with themselves after the Tigers game. That surge in percentage. Pearce to Pavlich. Okay. The crowd getting a chance to express their feelings. They did earlier when he ran on the ground, but tough day for him and his teammates. And now a real buzz going around the ground. If he kicks it, they're sure to make a noise despite the scoreboard. So the pressure on the Pav to orchestrate his own reception. Kick is good.
He's always had a beautiful kicking action, always been a reliable shot at goal. And they play Fremantle against the Bulldogs here in the last round of the season, which will be obviously his last game. And anyone in West Australia who loves their footy, I reckon, would like to get here to send a warm welcome off. But that's 4 weeks' time. He's still going today.
It was interesting earlier today, Lee, talking about the Pav as he sits down after that goal, and Boomer Harvey, the two extremes of the two real extremes of the modern day midfielder. Although Pav probably doesn't claim that, but he hasn't changed that much since he was in the midfield. It's a unique style and unique body, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep, the sun's setting on this wonderful career, but moments like that will be cherished for everyone at this ground this afternoon. The result, not what Docker supporters would have wished, as Hill Hands it to Pearce. Gets time to look, assess. Hasn't got the legs with the kick, Yaron. Did pretty well in that situation to halve the contest.
Yes, well, the modern midfield, I mean, whether it's Fife or his teammate Fife or Bontempelli or Cripps, they're probably taller than Pavlich. Some of these midfielders are getting up almost into the mid-190s themselves.
Yeah, Bontempelli, just checking him out the other night. What a player he's going to be. I mean, not even 21 yet. Late November he turns 21. Crozier forward. Some talking going on there. Tucker decides to send it down towards full forward. Grundy. He's been resolute back there. A lot of people suggesting he's getting slow and a problem in defence, but gee, he's proved the critics wrong. He had one bad game, I think, early in the season. A lot of people jumped on, but he's fought back brilliantly. There he is again. Sends it around the outer side wing. It's a good mark by Clark. Plays on. Crozier in space. Takes on the tackler. Dawson back to Crozier. This kick in hope inside the forward 50. Great judgment there by Mills. Back to Grundy.
Pushing wide. Collins, good use of the body. And then content to walk it over.
No way to sugarcoat it, guys. It's been disappointing for Fremantle. We know how good Sydney are, but this has been a comprehensive defeat, and how polished Sydney are today has been super impressive.
Offline, holding court in the coach's box. Neil feels the full brunt of Nankervis.
47 from side first.
It's been surrounded regularly this afternoon. Neil in tight situations. Contested footy, won again by the Swans. Hanbury, a wrestle ensues. Sutcliffe sliding in, happily lucky not to lose his footing. And Franklin, Buddy, has converted, hits it sweetly from outside 50.
Yeah, the 50-metre line for Franklin is really starting a line on the ground anywhere near the forward half. He's almost, if he's front of centre square, he's probably got the kicking distance. It's just one step, bang. Another long goal. He's got a couple. Franklin's got a couple.
We talk about milestone weekend. We could have another one coming up with triple figures, potentially the end result for the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, that was the one where probably that sliding into the legs, fortunately, the Swans player got himself out of the way. That's the dangerous slide then by Dawson. He is actually bending the rules a little today.
Hand pass came from Jack, then Curvis, Towers, and they move forward again. Papley's got it, plays on quickly. Franklin sets it up down towards full forward. Going back is Richards. The ball stays in. He takes a swing at it, misses it. Dawson picks it up, bounces a hand pass across to Spur, runs the boundary line. Sutcliffe, short one. And now Langdon, who can hold his head up tonight, comes out to Mundy as at left half back. So as it stands, this loss, it's going to be that. The Dock is the biggest to any team outside of Western Australia, meaning they lost to Western by more. And Walters takes a spectacular mark. Well blanketed all day long, but still the brilliance of the man comes into focus late. Ball is out of bounds. No, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it seems only a short years ago, wasn't it, when that final here, there was a preliminary final, wasn't it, when Fremantle's first half just completely demolished the Swans. But since then, Fremantle had a really good year home and away series last year, but obviously just this is their one down the year. But the Swans, they just continue to be up around the action.
Sunson Walters with some elevation. A rare moment for Dockers supporters to remember. Kennedy pitches it in front of Franklin. Ends up with Mundy. The run provided by Hill. Sweeping hand pass. The Dockers open here. Crozier. And now Neil. It's been a big afternoon for him. Gets a good look from outside 50, but doesn't have enough on it. And Grundy, uncontested, heads wide to the boundary where Mitchell is stationed.
And Kennedy watches up to 44 disposals, 16 kicks, 28 handballs, just racking them up, 10 clearances, 3 goals. That's a fair day at the footy.
Swans run it out of defence. Towers, Parker. Rowan peels off. Down to 6:45. Heaney out the back. And that was far too simple.
It's usually when the defence presses up, which is the modern coaching instruction, but Heaney was able to just run back quicker into the space. And the long kick over the top, defender just can't get back to contest.
Some big numbers being racked up by midfielders from both teams. David Mundy up to a career high 42. Lachie Neale on 38. And Isaac Heaney, here's the present and the future for Sydney. And he steers home another goal.
And the 100-point margin now, 102 points. It's a big win. You thought the Swans, they were third favourites, but no one would have envisaged it was going to be a over 100-point win, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, they've spent 18 weeks in the bottom four this season, Fremantle, so their supporters, unfortunately this year at least, are accustomed to what's happening, albeit on a grander scale today.
His third goal for the quarter, and really struck them beautifully each time. He's got a lovely kicking action, lovely taunting step.
Terrific young player. A lot of them around this competition. Mundy coming up for 43, but needs to control it first. Dragged off it. Jack, quick hands. Parker. Grundy sends it down towards half forward. Clever use of the body by Main. Allows him to take the mark, and then a little chip pass out wide. Tucker finds the ball on the deck. The longer it's gone, the better he's got. Main back inside the defensive 50, and Silvani, who started on Franklin, is with him again now. Sutcliffe has got it. 15 metres out from his defensive goal. Crozier had to hurry. Mitchell standing the mark. An outstanding third term. And now Crozier looks up the middle, goes to Mundy, ambitious. Mundy does well.
The skipper, with 43 next to his name. Laterally to Main. Touched off the boot. Clark now made aware of that. Didn't like anything forward of the play, so heads back to Main and turn to Crozier. Hence the frustration from Dockers supporters. Mundy gets involved again through the middle. Heads towards Pavlich. Too much carry on the kick. Yaron sweating on that. Mills is there. Weller with intent. Breaks the tackle. Around the body. Well, that's slick. Exciting footy from Lachie Weller, the young man who's finding his feet at this level.
Yeah, it's been hard yakka down there for the Fremantle Fours. The Swans' defence has been so solid. That was one of the fair occasions where in the air the ball just didn't go where the Swans' defence wanted it to go. Well, nice shot, nice snap. I tell you, a man who would be worrying about the score still, Ross Lyon, he'd like to prevent the 100-point loss. Yes. 90 points is better than 100 points, and we see now. Point 3.
You can mention that.
That's right. You can mention that.
There's Hanbury. Of course, the Pabs goal changed what we were talking about. He was saying 9 points required, and suddenly they would have moved to second. But one goal really changes the whole dynamic. Papley, Richards. In short, half volleyed there by Towers. Towers gives it back to Heaney. Clever kick to the advantage of Franklin. Franklin overran it, went to ground. So a Pyrrhic victory there for Silvani. In the overall, it doesn't matter too much. He gave it to Ibbotson. Ibbotson kicks to Main, and Main did well. Got in front of Jack and claimed it.
Taking percentage into account, we still may be on track for a historic Sydney final. What would that do for the AFL? In that state. Towers drives it outside the goal square. Parker had a piece of it, follows it up really well, and then he's taken to ground.
I reckon it was really good management of Isaac Heaney during the year by John Longmire and the Sydney coaching staff. He went through a bit of a flat patch, gave him a couple of weeks off, and he's back today, and he's going to be a really important player for their finals campaign.
3.5 minutes remaining in this one. Run over it. Neale. And the Dockers have won it. Well, there's one man. And Lachie Neale. He alongside David Mundy. So much with the footy today, but the damn wall burst pretty early for Fremantle.
Big numbers, isn't it? He's had 38 disposals, Mundy 44, and Kennedy 45. They're gigantic numbers for 3 players on the field at the same time.
Some indecision coming out of defence, and Weller has the ball destroyed by Cunningham. So it's been a great day at the office for the Sydney Swans. Well and truly ensconced inside the top 4 now, and those numbers, Josh Kennedy leading the way on the ground with 45 touches.
And Hanbury's had 39, so almost 4 players really close to 40 disposals for the afternoon.
Ross's biggest loss as a coach too. No wonder he looked glum moments ago. Langdon, hurried kick. Like Langdon, this ball bounces through midfield. Getting back Cunningham. Grundy doing much as he likes across half back. Aaliyah learning from a good one. Smith comes out to Jack, defensive side of right centre wing. It'll be interesting to see. We're talking about Sydney teams in the finals, how the AFL market the Giants. Not sure footy fans around the country know too many of them. Not exactly the who's who, it's more the who's who. But if they have a successful campaign, well, that will change. Very exciting outfit, the Giants.
Crowd getting stuck into Buddy Franklin. He's been pretty good. 2 goals, 3 and 20 disposals. Done a lot of his good work up the field.
Get a bell on the boundary as this ball goes out again. Close to Pete. Tom Harley, well, there you go. For Sook Television. Got a real job. Boundary thrown at the interchange gates.
Looks like Buddy Franklin's day is done. And he watches from the sidelines as Sydney win another clearance, although Richards took a while to grasp it. Allows Neil to swoop over the head of De Boer. Aaliyah finds Hanbury. It would be a triple figure margin. That's perhaps all that remains. Hanbury doesn't make great contact. Papley forced to work for it. Neil, a gather and give to Sheridan. Tucker with the left. Good delivery. Walters brilliantly sport from behind. And Mills cleans up. Smith got a timely fist in there. Main has won himself a footy.
He's probably a bit of an unsung hero, Nick Smith, to some. I know he's incredibly valued within Sydney, but he's got the ability to shut down Cyril Rioli. He's done a good job today. Plays a vital role, that small defender.
Here's Sheridan. Almost a full forward. Weller lays it off. Walters surrounded by Swans. Clever handball, De Boer, and now Sheridan thought about going for home, but the sense of the occasion got to him, and it's roundly celebrated. We saw Lindsay Thomas last night provide Boomer Harvey on his record-breaking match with a soda. This isn't quite in that category, but the Pav with 694 career goals, perhaps to put the full stop on this milestone match. 40 metres out. It does not deviate off the boot.
And even the Swans supporters behind the goals are clapping. I mean, they can be happy now because they got the good match one, but they were happy to join in the Fremantle supporters' applause for one of the much admired players in footy. I reckon he's got two university degrees as well. He was telling us the other day on game day, so you never know what might happen in Pav's life. Been a wonderful player, but a lot of good things will still to come.
As I mentioned earlier, everything he does on the footy field goes into Fremantle's record books. Games, goals, best and fairest, All-Australian selection. He is the benchmark. Well, he used to be. Ball up, coming up just outside that outer ring.
His record's going to take some catching too, Den. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps Nat Fyfe one day, but it's a remarkable record.
Pete, you can take comfort in the fact you're a pioneer. Came over the top of you, he did. Good mark is taken by Hanbury. Of course, Peter, success with North Melbourne, one of the greats there. Terrific player. Ball goes to the outer side, and a good mark is taken by Main. So, dying seconds of this one. They've held it under 100 anyway, the Dockers. Langdon, as I said earlier, can keep his head up. Comes short to Pearce. Mark talking about speculation. Langdon might return home. Well, would suggest the Dockers would do well to keep him. Crozier on the siren. Fittingly, oh, let him mark it. Punched it away from the bag.
No sense of theatre.
That was a disgrace by Sydney. 21-11, 7-5. So the margin 90 points. And Sydney show us why they are in contention for another flag. They were terrific today.
Match ball given to Matthew Pavlich, and Lee, although the result didn't go his way, it was a 90-point defeat. I'm sure the Sydney Swans players beelining Matthew Pavlich.
No, absolutely. He was okay. I thought he played okay, Pavlich. He was beaten mainly in the one-on-one, you'd have to say, by Rampy, but he still was a valuable player for the Dockers. So it's not a great occasion for his 350th, but as we said, in about a month's time against the Bulldogs in final round of the season, that will be an emotional day for all at Fremantle.
Fremantle with a lot of work to do, but Sydney eyeing the prize now. They know they're good enough. Will break their way.
Josh Kennedy, 45 disposals, 3 goals. Ample support from the likes of Dan Hanbury, but Lee, this midfield is gathering momentum as we stand the ladder. Sydney in 3rd position. Their percentage takes a real boost today, up to 140.
Yeah, no, they're a good team, and if they play anywhere near their ability there. Again, and Belly mentioned Nick Smith is a small defender who tends to do well in the Surioli, who has sort of killed the opposition in the last few grand finals. So, no, they're a good team. They're certainly one to beat.
Margin 90 points then, Sydney's way. What a remarkable round 19. Milestones are made of this.